days, Harry had no idea how long a bath he would need to work out the secret of the golden egg. He decided to do it at night when he would be able to take as much time as he wanted. Reluctant though he was to accept more favors from Cedric, he also decided to use the prefect's bathroom. Far fewer people were allowed in there, so it was much less likely that he would be disturbed. Harry planned his excursion carefully because he had been cut out of bed and out of bounds by Filch, the caretaker, in the middle of the night once before, and had no desire to repeat the experience. The invisibility cloak would, of course, be essential, and as an added precaution, Harry thought he would take the Marauder's map, which, next to the cloak, was the most useful aid to rule breaking Harry owned. The map showed the whole of Hogwarts, including its many shortcuts and secret passageways, and, most importantly of all, it revealed the people inside the castle as minuscule, labeled dots moving around the corridors, so that Harry would be forewarned if somebody was approaching the bathroom. On a Thursday night, Harry sneaked up to bed, put on the cloak, crept back down the stairs, and, just as he had done on the night when Hagrid had shown him the dragons, waited for the portrait hole to open. This time it was Ron who waited outside to give the fat lady the password: banana fritters. "Good luck," Ron muttered, climbing into the common room as Harry crept out past him. It was awkward moving under the cloak tonight because Harry had the heavy egg under one arm and the map held in front of his nose with the other. However, the moonlit corridors were empty and silent, and by checking the map at strategic intervals, Harry was able to ensure that he wouldn't run into anyone he wanted to avoid. When he reached the statue of Boris the Bewildered, a lost-looking wizard with his gloves on the wrong hands, he located the right door, leaned close to it, and muttered the password, "Pine Fresh," just as Cedric had told him. The door cracked open. Harry slipped inside, bolted the door behind him, and pulled off the invisibility cloak, looking around. His immediate reaction was that it would be worth becoming a prefect just to be able to use this bathroom. It was softly lit by a splendid candle-filled chandelier, and everything was made of white marble, including what looked like an empty, rectangular swimming pool sunk into the middle of the floor. About 100 golden taps stood all around the pool's edges, each with a different colored jewel set into its handle. There was also a diving board. Long white linen curtains hung at the windows. A large pile of fluffy white towels sat in a corner, and there was a single golden framed painting on the wall. It featured a blonde mermaid who was fast asleep on a rock, her long hair fluttering over her face every time she snored. Harry put down his cloak, the egg and the map, and moved forwards, looking around, his footsteps echoing off the wall. he was here, he couldn't quite suppress the feeling that Cedric might have been having him on. How on earth was this supposed to help solve the mystery of the egg? Nevertheless, he put one of the fluffy towels, the cloak, the mop and the egg at the side of the swimming pool-sized bath, then knelt down and turned on a few of the taps. He could tell at once that they carried different sorts of bubble bath mixed with the water, though it wasn't bubble bath as Harry had ever experienced it. One tub gushed pink and blue bubbles the size of footballs, another poured ice-white foam so thick that Harry thought it would have supported his weight if he'd cared to test it. A third sent heavily perfumed purple clouds hovering over the surface of the water. Harry amused himself for a while, turning the taps on and off, particularly enjoying the effect of one whose jet bounced on the surface of the water in large arcs. Then, when the deep pool was full of hot water, foam and bubbles, which took a very short time considering its size, Harry turned off all the taps, pulled off his pajamas, slippers and dressing gown and slid into the water. It was so deep that his feet barely touched the bottom, and he actually did a couple of lengths before swimming back to the side and treading water, staring at the egg. Highly enjoyable though it was to swim in hot and foamy water with clouds of different colored steam wafting all around him. No stroke of brilliance came to him, no sudden burst of understanding. Harry stretched out his arms, lifted the egg in his wet hands and opened it. The wailing, screeching sound filled the bathroom, echoing and reverberating off the marble walls, but it sounded just as incomprehensible as ever, if not more so with all the echoes. He snapped it shut again, worried that the sound would attract Filch, wondering whether that hadn't been Cedric's plan, and then, making him jump so badly that he dropped the egg, which clattered away across the bathroom floor, someone spoke. "I'd try putting it in the water if I were you." Harry had swallowed a considerable amount of bubbles in shock. He stood up, spluttering, and saw the ghost of a very glum-looking girl sitting cross-legged on top of one of the tubs. It was Morning Myrtle, who was usually to be heard sobbing in the S-band of a toilet 3 floors below. "Myrtle," Harry said in outrage, I'm not wearing anything." The foam was so dense that this hardly mattered, but he had a nasty feeling that Myrtle had been spying on him from out of one of the taps ever since he had arrived. "I closed my eyes when you got in," she said, blinking at him through her thick spectacles. "You haven't been to see me for ages." "Yeah, well," said Harry, bending his knees slightly just to make absolutely sure Myrtle couldn't see anything but his head. "I'm not supposed to come into your bathroom, am I? It's a girl's one." "You didn't used to care," said Myrtle miserably. "You used to be in there all the time." This was true, though only because Harry, Ron and Hermione had found Myrtle's out-of-order toilets a convenient place to brew Polyjuice Potion in secret, a forbidden potion which had turned Harry and Ron into living replicas of Crabbe and Goyle for an hour, so that they could sneak into the Slytherin common room. "I got told off for going in there," said Harry, which was half true. Percy had once caught him coming out of Myrtle's bathroom. "I thought I water. That's what Cedric Diggory did. Have you been spying on him too? Said Harry indignantly. What do you do? Sneak up here in the evenings to watch the prefects take baths? Sometimes, said Myrtle, rather slyly, but I've never come out to speak to anyone before. I'm honored, said Harry darkly. You keep your eyes shut. He made sure Myrtle had her glasses well covered before hoisting himself out of the bath, wrapping the towel firmly around himself and going to get the egg. Once he was back in the water, Myrtle peered through her fingers and said, Go on then, open it under the water. Harry lowered the egg beneath the foamy surface and opened it. And this time it did not wail. A gurgling song was coming out of it, a song whose words he couldn't distinguish through the water. You need to put your head under too, said Myrtle, who seemed to be thoroughly enjoying bossing him around. Go on. Harry took a great breath and slid under the surface, and now, sitting on the marble bottom of the bubble-filled bath, he heard a chorus of eerie voices singing to him from the open egg in his hand. Come seek us where our voices sound. We cannot sing above the ground. And while you're searching, ponder this. We've taken what you sorely miss. An hour long you'll have to look and to recover what we took. But past an hour, the prospect's black. Too late, it's gone, it won't come back. Harry let himself float back upwards and broke the bubbly surface, shaking his hair out of his eyes. Hear it, said Myrtle. Yeah, come seek us where our voices sound. And if I need persuading, hang on, I need to listen again. He sank back beneath the water. It took 3 more underwater renditions of the egg song before Harry had it memorized, and he trod water for a while, thinking hard while Myrtle sat and watched him. I've got to go and look for people who can't use their voices above the ground, he said slowly. Who could that be? Slow, aren't you? He had never seen Moaning Myrtle so cheerful, apart from the day when Hermione's dose of Polyjuice potion had given her the hairy face and tail of a cat. Harry stared around the bathroom, thinking, if the voices could only be heard underwater, then it made sense for them to belong to underwater creatures. He ran this theory past Myrtle, who smirked at him. Well, that's what Diggory thought, she said. He lay there talking to himself for ages about it. Ages and ages. Nearly all the bubbles had gone. Underwater, Harry said slowly. Myrtle, what lives in the lake apart from the giant squid? Oh, all sorts, she said. I sometimes go down there, sometimes don't have any choice if someone flushes my toilet when I'm not expecting it. Trying not to think about Moaning Myrtle swimming down a pipe to the lake with the contents of a toilet, Harry said, Well, does anything in there have human voices? Hang on. Harry's eyes had fallen on the picture of the snooting mermaid on the wall. Myrtle, there aren't mer people in there, are there? Oh, very good, she said, her thick glasses twinkling. It took Diggory much longer than that, and that was with her awake too. Myrtle jerked her head towards the mermaid with an expression of great dislike on her glum face, giggling and showing off and flashing her fins. That's it, isn't it? Said Harry excitedly. The second task's to go and find the mer people in the lake and... But he suddenly realized what he was saying, and he felt excitement drain out of him as though someone had just pulled a plug on his stomach, in his stomach. He wasn't a very good swimmer. He'd never had much practice. Dudley had had lessons in their youth, but Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon, no doubt hoping that Harry would drown one day, hadn't bothered to give him any. A couple of lengths of this path was all very well, but that lake was very large and very deep, and mer people would surely live right at the bottom. Myrtle, Harry said slowly, how am I supposed to breathe? At this, Myrtle's eyes filled with sudden tears again. Tactless, she muttered, groping in her robes for a handkerchief. What's tactless? Said Harry, bewildered. Talking about breathing in front of me, she said shrilly, and her voice echoed loudly around the bathroom. When I can't, when I haven't, not for ages. She buried her face in her handkerchief and sniffed loudly. version of The Lord of the Rings. Maybe I should buy it. I wonder if you would like to hear some words in my native language. There are a lot of triggers in my native language. It's completely different from English. It's a different group of languages. Please let me know in the comments if you would like to hear some